Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So some of this stuff I probably could have covered in yesterday's video, but I wanted to focus in on the image, of course, that leaked out yesterday. Slight update, I suppose, on that would be that like I talked about, I think in the comments on that video, it happened while I was editing the video to upload it. The original sources went down. We don't know if they were taken down by like Paramount or the photographer themselves took it down. But either way, it started getting taken down. A lot of places that are kind of like bigger kind of outlets that had posted the image also started getting kind of requests and stuff like that to have stuff taken down. A lot of people just being kind of wanted to avoid the request even coming in, took it down themselves, and so the fun was kind of ruined a little bit later on by kind of Paramount coming in and not wanting the image out there. It didn't seem like there was anything too like crazy on that side of things. Like it seemed like they were just asking. Now, if anyone had refused, you wonder what would have happened, but you know, nothing I think of note has so far happened. But still, it's just the idea of like, we now have our first look. I think in general, it is a positive thing for Avatar Studios, ultimately, that people have now seen what this is. They now have some sort of a vision for what the first movie that is being talked about a little bit is actually going to look like and what to expect from it. So in that sense, I'm satisfied for probably a while now. I still am going to want an official update on this probably sooner rather than later, but this definitely eases a lot of the kind of rising, I suppose, tensions of like, when are we ever going to learn anything? We have this, and sure, it would have been great if it was public, but it happened anyway. It's out there. People can find the image. It's not gone for good. Everyone has it saved, I suppose, themselves somewhere, just in case. So let's get into the news. First up, an unfortunate piece of news, a delay for Azula in the Spirit Temple. Now, this delay only affects the mass market and also the digital release for the book. It doesn't affect the comic book store release date, at least so far. So originally the book was September 26th mass market, and then the comic stores September 27th, so a day apart. Now what has happened is that the 26th date has moved to now being October 10th. So if you've ordered the book digitally or from, say, like Barnes & Nobles or a website like that, a bookstore, you will now only be getting your book in or around October 10th. If you are still planning to get your book from a comic book store, the book right now is still scheduled for September 27th. So that is the earliest point at which anyone is going to be able to get the book. So do keep that in mind. This is that delay for one distributor over the other. So it's not like a full delay. It is a kind of continuation of stuff that was happening towards the end of last year that still seems to have not kind of like figured itself out. A lot of the books are just having this thing where one place will have it earlier than other places. It's frustrating. Hopefully they sort it out at some point, because there is hype behind this book, and I think this immediately creates a bit of a frustration of like a lot of big Azula fans are going to have to wait 2 weeks after a lot of other people to see the book, and then you get into sort of comic leaks and stuff like that because you have this split release date, and it just gets very awkward and frustrating when fans just want to read the book. So there is that. Then we get into this. This is First 4 Figures. They are now doing Avatar stuff. So at the end of last month, they announced that they are going to be doing collectibles for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, just a few days ago, they announced that at the very least what they plan to do first. And that is that they're doing some Aang figures, specifically an 11-inch PVC painted figure and also a 13-inch PVC/resin painted figure. Do note that you can put your email address in here and get a $20 off coupon for when pre-orders go live on May 9th. This is also, I assume, when we'll actually see pictures first. Maybe they'll show it off a little bit ahead of time, but either way, pictures in or around May 9th, so not too far away at all for this. Now, to give you some sense for, I suppose, like what exactly this actually is, do keep in mind that the way that they operate is that this is not two completely identical figures. This is one figure in two different versions is the way to talk about it. So let's bring up this, which is this is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Magician figure that they put out a while back. Just because I'm familiar with the character, I'm just going to use this one as the example. There are multiple versions, so here's an image. Now, do keep in mind here, purple variant, blue variant. In this case, there probably won't be something like that for Aang, but who knows? We'll focus on the purple variant here. And you can see very clearly, these are the two versions of the purple version. The core figure is basically the same across both figures. You can see the size and pose of the actual Dark Magician himself is the same. You can see it's roughly the same dark magical circle that goes with the character. The core difference is the base, because in one case it's like a PVC base, basic. In the other one, it's a bigger resin base that kind of adds on to like the core figure, and there's some slight, differences, but at its core, the core figure is the same. The difference in price, of course, is basically nearly, I think, more than double. I think this is like around 150, 180 or something like that, whereas this is like 450 or something. Now, keep in mind, there's like a version with lights, without lights. I think this version always has lights on the top and bottom of it and stuff like that. So, that gives you a sense for what's going on here. There will be one version that is more basic and cheaper, and then there'll be a big deluxe version that's really, really expensive. Now, going back to this for a second. If you do this, I actually did this just in case. I'm not guaranteed that I'm going to buy the figure, but I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. I got an email with a code, so I have the coupon already. But with that came this image. They actually showed off a silhouette of the figure for Aang. And you can see it basically tells you what it's going to be. Sure, the actual execution when we see the full in color image is going to be a lot better, but this shows you at the very least what the figure is planned to be. It is clearly Book 1 Aang. He has his Book 1/2 glider. You can see he has his hands covered and stuff like that, so this is his Book 1 outfit. He is doing some sort of an air scooter pose. That's maybe a little bit more dynamic because he's... Usually when he does the air scooter, he's a little bit more fully like crouched in, kind of locked into the air scooter. This seems like he's almost like landing into it or something like that. We can see here the air scooter itself, and then the base seems to have some sort of a swirling air effect on it also. And then we don't know what exact texture or whatever the actual base itself will actually have. Now, note the name. This is the PVC painted statue. This is not the resin version, which will be 2 inches taller. That definitely highlights that they will, I think, underneath his foot, either replace the full ball and base, or maybe just the base underneath the ball with some sort of a crazy effect that's actually going on. So it'll be interesting to see how extreme they go with that, if there is a lights kind of feature to it and so on. But for the basic version of the figure here, it doesn't look like there's as much going on as, say, like the Dark Magician figure that I showed you, which had the giant ring and stuff like that. This seems a little bit more subtle, so I assume this will be a little bit cheaper than, say, that. So it's maybe going to be sort of 140 would be my guess, give or take. We'll see what they do. So that's it. That for a high-end figure, if it looks super, super nice, that feels like an okay price, especially from a company with a good reputation, as far as I'm aware, as First for Figures. This seems pretty solid to me. Yes, I still have that Book 1 Aang fatigue of, like, of course, everyone has to do a Book 1 Aang. Never going to be super happy about that when Book 3 Aang would be better or something like that, but that is the situation. The other thing to mention is just that they also mentioned in one of their announcements, I think their YouTube announcement, that they are going to be doing some Avatar grand scale busts as well. So they're not listed here, but just to give you an example, let's go into this solid snake one, just to give you a sense for what we're talking about here. So this is like a $450 bust. Very, very detailed though. I can only imagine how this is going to look for an Avatar character. Like, how detailed are they going to go with this? It could make for a very, very unique piece. Of course, super, super high end. But if you are a big fan of a specific character, this could be your only chance to get like a crazy piece like this for them. So do be aware of that. So yeah, I'll do a news video when this actually drops, and we'll discuss the pictures and so on. But let's move on to some very exciting news here, and that is this. Let me just zoom out actually a bit here. So this is the reveal of Avatar Weiss Schwarz cards for the first time. officially. So this is the reveal of all of the cards from the trial deck. So the full list of cards in the trial deck has been revealed here. This means that Avatar Weiss Schwarz preview season has begun. I'll add in here that I happen to be a part of the previews for Avatar Weiss Schwarz, so you will see me featured in previews for this. I will be doing a video showing off cards. I won't say when it's coming out because there, I suppose, exact lineup when they reveal stuff will be more kind of kept under wraps, but I will be featured. It was a very exciting thing to be a part of. So I have seen a few cards like ahead of time, but not that much. Like let's put it this way: like there's like twice as many cards as I saw, like basically included in this article here. So again, I think they got a Weiss Schwarz content creator in to do the kind of review of the deck here as well as the reveal. And that's going to be the way preview season works for this. Because, again, remember, this is an English edition original. These are cards that are being seen for the first time publicly, like, ever. Because there's no prior Japanese release of this set. This is an English original. So these are, like, world-exclusive reveals, basically. So I won't go through every single aspect of this, because I think my plan is probably to do a larger set review once we get all of the cards much later on. But just so we can quickly go through them, I have the cards open individually here so we can get a better look at them. So there are 19 unique cards in the trial deck. Obviously, when you buy a trial deck, you get 50 cards, but of course you're getting multiple copies of certain versions of these cards, so your deck actually functions to a certain degree. Because it's a trial deck plus, it means you'll get either 4 or 2 copies of each card, meaning with just 2 trial decks, you can have a complete playset of every single card. So the first card here is yellow. Zuko trapped in a cave. And I won't go too much into the analysis here, but note it is a bond card with the card Aang trapped in a cave, which is this card, which is a level 1. So it can, at level 0, cheat out a level 1. It's got more power. It boosts power. Pretty nice combo. And then also remember, a lot of these extra effects, like you may put 3 cards from top of your deck into your waiting room. That might seem a little bit like, why am I doing that? Is that a punishment? No, that is a good thing. Your waiting room is cards that you know. You can look through your waiting room. They're there because card effects can access your waiting room. And that's the kind of benefit here of, like, there are actually quite a few cards among these ones that put cards into your waiting room. And we do have a few ways to access that. So this deck seems like it can actually function reasonably well. There's a couple of different combos in here. And certainly it feels like a pretty solid foundation to like upgrade from with cards from the actual booster pack. So that is that Zuko at level 0. Then we have this one here, the level 0 Aang and Zuko Unexpected Cooperation, which is a bit of an interesting one, where it has this whole marker effect where basically if you draw a card, if the card that you pick up is not a climax card, you can put it underneath the card to give it 3000 power. Otherwise, you just get to look at the top card of your deck, which could be interesting information, the card. So it's useful for multiple reasons as well. So that's an Aang and Zuko card in yellow. There's the Aang trapped in a cave that we already talked about. Level 1 Zuko Agni Kai, a bit more of a complicated effect here. It can't side attack, but also accelerate effect, and it eventually gets around to, you know, this card gets the following ability. When it basically destroys an opponent's character, you may choose one card that's called Katar's Necklace, or a World of Avatar character, and return it to your hand. So it's a way to kind of, you know, by paying the cost, you know, get you this specific card or a character card. Pretty interesting stuff. And like, obviously we're seeing flashback Zuko here in this one. Then we have the backup card here, Iroh's Stern Warning. The fist symbol, which is new here, means that you can use this to boost the power of your characters during your opponent's turn, which is interesting. So there's an Iroh card, followed by another Iroh card, this time at level 2, so we're getting more powerful here, 5000. Note that this is more one of these assist high-level cards, where this one is primarily going to be used in maybe your backstage to boost the power of your characters who are in the front stage, because it actually gives 500 power times the character's level, so it can give a 1500 boost theoretically, and to multiple cards. So that's pretty good. And again, its other effect, choose a World of Avatar character in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So that's a way to get stuff out of the waiting room for paying 2 stock and resting this card. So there's that. Then we have Zhao, also at level 2, which is kind of almost like the reverse in a way of that card, where like this card actually gets powers for cards in your opponent's backstage, and it can keep itself in play after being defeated with an encore ability, which is pretty nice for just putting a character into your waiting room. Here's the first climax card here, which is called Stuck in a Blizzard. Now this seems to be the sort of the one that doesn't have a climax combo. So if you are going to upgrade the deck, you probably have to replace the copies of this card with another climax combo, because there's no character card that works specifically with this climax card. It's the blue climax card that actually has a full combo with it. So here's a really obvious replacement of, like, maybe put in a yellow climax combo that from the booster pack in place of this. This one's obviously in theme with the cards in the set, but there will be, I assume, in the actual set, an equivalent to this that just has a bit more of a combo potential for you. Then we get into the blue cards in the deck. So we have the level 0 Katara New Necklace, which is pretty cool. So reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an event or character, put it into your hand and then discard a card from your hand. So it's a way to kind of shape your hand. And also, when it attacks, you can give your one of your other characters power as well. So a power booster card is pretty good. Then we have the level 0 Sokka here, which is actually very good. During your turn, all your World of Avatar characters get plus 500. And Brainstorm, another way to put cards into your waiting room. 5 cards into the waiting room. But for every climax card you revealed, draw a card. Now, the draw card Brainstorm is one of the weaker effects, in that some of the Brainstorm effects can be like, for every climax you reveal, search your deck for a card. And that's a little bit better, like 2 searches versus 2 cards. But still decent for the trial deck as kind of searcher like this. Then we have the level 0 Katara and Sokka card, Siblings, which is very cool because this works with your sort of finisher for the deck, the climax combo, Aang Avatar State. So it actually allows you to cheat the level 3 card, which is, I think it's this one here. So the Aang Avatar State is a level 3, do remember that. But we are here. So if your level is 2 or higher, you can basically, what you do is you discard a card from your hand. If this is on the field, also put this into the waiting room. Then you can replace basically those 2 cards effectively with an Avatar Aang that's in your hand and put it onto the stage. So it's a way to cheat it out without paying its cost. Instead, you pay the cost that is on this card. And it's also your assister. That cards in front of this get plus 500 power. So this is a very, very usable card that adds a little bit of extra value to the trial deck, sort of like a boss card, ultimately. Here's the level 0 Aang, the boy trapped in ice, where it gets basically 1,000 extra power. So it's actually really all the time 3,000. And you can search. It's put it on the field, pay the cost, which is 1 stock, and put a card into your waiting room, and you get to search for a World of Avatar character. Very, very, very good. UA Moon Spirit is up next. Also level 0. When a climax is placed in your climax area, choose a character and that character gets plus 1 soul. So this is a very interesting card. Like, from the sets that I've used, I haven't really encountered that many cards that have an effect like this that actually is just on a card that's not a climax card. Boost the power of your soul. So that's very nice, and especially because it works with the turn you play the climax card, and most of them already give you extra soul, it actually means you're putting out a little bit more damage, and then also it has a rest to increase the power of a character, so very usable card. Here's a vanilla card, which again is probably one of the few cards in the deck that probably needs maybe immediate replacing if you're going to construct something yourself. Jet and Freedom Fighters, level 1, 5,500 power. But, you know, because it's a vanilla, it has slightly more power than like a typical non-vanilla card that actually has an effect. And in this deck, where there is actually quite a lot of attack boosting, this can be somewhat usable. But you value the effects probably a little bit more than just like an extra little bit of power that's just built into the card. Then we have the level 2 Sokka First Love. During your turn, it gets 1,000 power for each of your other characters, which is really good. Like, that's maximum of, 11,000? That's good at level 2. And when his battle opponent becomes reversed, if there's a climax in your climax area, you may choose a World of Avatar character in your waiting room and put it into your stock. So you gain an energy if you defeat an opponent's character, which with that much power, you probably will. So that seems decent. Then we have our other level 3. We'll get to talk about the Aang as well. So this is the additional 3. The Katara, protecting Aang. If you have 2 or more World of Avatar characters, this card gets plus 500 power. And the ability to basically, on your opponent's turn, swap the position of 2 cards that are still kind of like... it's like you choose the card and one of your World of Avatar cards, exchange them as ready again. Interesting. You wonder, will this combo a little bit more with cards in the booster set? Because there's the potential, it feels like, for this to actually be very, very usable. Right now, it is just like the card says. It's a protecting style card. They target one of your other characters. Katara can kind of flip around and like make them target her type of thing. So it's somewhat interesting. And also, it heals. The second effect there is healing. You may put the top card of your clock into the waiting room. When you put it onto the field, your clock is your damage. So that's pretty nice. Here's the Aang, of course. So here's your big kind of like finisher here. So straight away, it has a put it on the field, search for a character put into your hand. That's good. The climax combo with the climax card, Fury of the Ocean Spirit, which is this card here, which we'll get to, is... when it attacks, if you've played the climax that turn, and you have 2 or more other World of Avatar characters, you deal a damage to your opponent, and this gets plus 1000 power until the end of your opponent's next turn. So, straight away there, really interesting. Like, you probably should have other characters on the field, so this should definitely go off. You get to just deal damage prior to, like, your attack damage going through. And this is how you sort of finish in Weiss Schwarz. The more you can do this, of, like, different chunks of damage. Because remember, on defense... when you take damage, if you flip a climax, you cancel that full chunk of damage. If you're about to take 5 and you flip over a climax card first damage, you cancel the full 5. So if you can do an attack where you're doing, like in this case, 1, then potentially 2, because it has 2 soul, and then you're doing it on a turn when you have the climax, so you're doing 1 and then 3, it just maximizes your chance to actually do the damage, where... what if they waste their climax flip on the 1 extra damage, but then they take a huge hit of like 3 or 4 damage? That's the kind of like idea of this as being a solid finisher ultimately. And then it does keep the 1000 power during your opponent's next turn, so it stays relatively big. And because this deck has other ways to gain power, it could be quite big on your opponent's turn as well. The event card for the deck... so the single-use card here, there's no power on this one, Katara's Necklace. Put the top 2 cards of your deck into your waiting room and choose up to 1 level X character in your waiting room. And X is equal to the total level of the cards put into your waiting room. So basically, top 2 cards of your deck into the waiting room, count up what the level of those 2 cards was, and you can then get a character at that level, basically. And it's level or lower. Now, keeping in mind, you're always going to be able to hit something, because even climaxes are treated as level 0, and you're looking for potentially level 0 characters. But if you want the level 3, of course, you have to hope you hit at least like a level 2 and a 1, or another level 3. But it seems very, very good. Very usable, definitely. And then we have the climax card itself here, which again is just 1k, 1 soul. And the uniqueness here is that it has the gate trigger icon, which is when it triggers, you may choose a climax in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So it's a way to get climax cards into your hand. Now, for this deck, probably the idea is that you have to hope you flip this earlier on in the game to probably get another copy of itself to set up your climax combo for later on in the game. So, final thing we need to talk about here is the rarities here, because if we look at the trial deck listing on the website, you can see here it mentions that every deck has 2 shiny cards, so you get two super rares in every copy of this trial deck. But you have a chance to get 1 out of 3 rare cards with a special embossing, or 1 special rare card with special embossing and a hot stamp. So basically the idea is that there are 3 triple rares and there's 1 SP. Now, what are they for this trial deck? Because the article doesn't actually go into the rarities for the most part. But you'll notice this card in the banner we didn't talk about. This is Aang Avatar State. It's the card we're just talking about there. It's the exact same card, but this is the SP version of it. So this is the hot stamp version of that card. If you get super, super lucky, you could get one of your copies of the Aang in the deck as this. So you can see from the effect here that I think the air temple like towers and the mountain in the background are going to be like, I guess, hot stamped in some way or have some sort of crazy foiling effect. They're using more modern art here for Aang that we've seen somewhat relatively recently. So that's kind of what it seems to be doing. The alternate art versions are going to be using more promo art, whereas most of the standard cards will be screenshots from the show, which makes complete sense. Now, what are the two shiny cards? My understanding on the basis of, like, again, look at the picture of the trial deck here. We didn't look at this card. Where's this Aang? My understanding based on this picture, when they showed this before, these are cards that are in the set. A sneak peek, they said these are both from the trial deck. So we are looking for a yellow Aang and blue spirit card and then a blue just Aang card. How many are in this? Well, the only Aang and blue spirit card in the whole set is this card. Aang and Zuko Unexpected Cooperation. So my assumption has to be you will get one copy of this card that is this art. And then your other copies in the deck will be this standard art. Because it says here this is just number 2 TD. It doesn't say SR. So I'm assuming this is the SR card. And then we're looking for the blue Aang. The only other blue Aang, apart from the Avatar State level 3, is this level 0 Aang. So again, I assume this will be the case. You'll get one copy in foil of this one in SR. That's why it's the cover card. And then the other copies in the deck will be this art here, the standard art of the card. So I think that's how that works. Then we're looking for what are the 3 triple rares. Well, they actually showed us one of them if you look closely. The Fury of the Ocean Spirit Climax card is listed as a triple rare, as you can see here. It has or, meaning they didn't show us the standard art for this. So if you don't get lucky, you won't get this specific art. So it'll be interesting to see what art they actually do have on the normal version of the card. But it does mean that this one is actually going to have crazy foiling all over it, which already with the kind of light effects going on in the animation could look really, really, really cool. So there's one of them. And then what are the other two going to be? So let's take a look through here. Usually with the kind of triple rare selections, they go for kind of specific character cards for the most part, ones that are a little bit more kind of generic, not overly specific. So is there a chance for that Sokka? I think absolutely, because it's a pretty decent card being the Brainstormer, and it's like Sokka just doing his thing. So that's an option. I'd be surprised if they went for either of these two because they're a part of a little kind of like 2-card combo. And if they're not going to do one, unless they do both of these ones, I'd be surprised if they did it that way. Will they do this Zuko? Again, because it's part of a combo with Katara's necklace, I don't think they'll do it that way. They don't tend to do event cards in these extra rarities. Katara and Yue, it could be an option. But I wonder, is there too much focus on the necklace in this one? And then they tend to go for more of the main cast with these ones, especially in the trial decks. They're not going to do Jet. I don't think they do this Iroh. They're not going to do the random climax. This Sokka, maybe. Don't think they do Zhao. I think there's maybe a chance. Maybe it's this Iroh, but not really sure. There's definitely a chance it could be this Katara because it's more of a kind of generic one. That's definitely an option. And then I do think the Katara and Sokka card probably, there's maybe a chance. Again, it is part of a combo, but because it's kind of in a way part of the trial deck combo where like you can get this in foil, you can get this in foil. It would be nice to in a way have the full kind of thing able to come full alternate rarity, but I don't actually know right now which one it's going to be. So we'll probably find that out a little bit closer to the time, what way exactly that all works. But it looks good. I think as someone who's not an expert at this game, but at least knows enough to kind of, I think, be able to judge what a good card is, I think there's some solid stuff in here. Yes, a deck that you build from probably just the booster packs using the higher rarity cards from the booster pack is probably going to be better than this. But I think you will consider some of these cards for sure. yes, the power level perhaps isn't completely there on some of the level 3s, but I do think there is a little bit of potential with a few of these cards here that could come into play. Like, I do think the event, for instance, is actually like relatively solid, so unless it's completely outclassed by another event within the actual set, that seems somewhat usable as well. And I would recommend reading this article because it has some good points on the kind of the viability of these cards as well. So that's what I have to say about that. And yeah, I'm excited to see the rest of the reveals. I'm not going to... I doubt I'll do a video to cover like every single reveal. I'll probably more do little groups of them, and then closer to the time I'll do some sort of an overall like set review type thing of all the cards in the set. But we'll end with this. We'll again go back to the patch notes because we're obviously at the weekend here, and pretty early next week we're going to get our next update for the Rise of Kyoshi update. Now, we're obviously focused on summon banners here. We had the powerful opponent banner, and as I predicted, it was Talaric Tug, kind of Tagaka's second in command. He's actually really good. I actually like him as like a tank defense character. So I've put quite a few summons into him. I'm just a few tickets away from him being 6 out of 6 kind of skill coins, and getting him up to level 70, because I actually like the way he operates quite a bit. It helps that these banners are the easiest ones to kind of do, but I actually like the character that we got here. But it does mean this banner here, the timeline banner for the 2nd of May, is coming up in just a few days. Who is it going to be? So as I talked about in one of my previous videos, the characters we have left at this point are Yoon, Tagaka, Heiran, Jeonju, and Yoon, Tagaka, Heiran, Jeonju, and Kelsang. So the 3 Karuk Team Avatar members who we have very little info on, like from a kind of in-game perspective. They're part of the story content, but we know nothing really about what they're like in-game. People have data mined it, and apparently Heiran is defense, like I said before. Kelsang is peace, Jeonju is chaos. But what way are they going to break this down? Obviously, like I said before, the peace chaos banner at the end is probably where Jeonju and Kelsang are going to be, and it leaves these remaining 2 banners, like the one coming in a few days and then the one the week after that. What's happening? The game, based on the teases you get from the messages that have the little gifts, seems to be suggesting that we're going to do more Fifth Nation stuff. And I think there was one of them last night that was literally about someone talking about seeing Tagaka and how amazed he is by her. So I think that probably means Tagaka for sure is coming in the next banner. Now, that leaves obviously then Yoon and Heiran. Are they just going to be this banner? Or is it going to be Tagaka and someone for this banner? I'm not particularly sure. I maybe just to avoid a little bit of like Fifth Nation pirate character fatigue, this probably should be 2 different characters, and I think Tagaka and Yoon would make a little bit of sense. That way you can maybe do Heiran for this banner. Maybe you can do a little bit of like rate up where it's like 150 pity, or actually what is it, 120 pity, and maybe it's like Heiran plus also Rangi again. I'm not really sure. But I'm excited to see how the other characters go, because I've definitely been quite strategic with how I've been using my kind of summons and stuff like that, which is, you saw in my videos, I did some summons during the initial launch of the event, and I did manage to get Rangi. And pretty much after that, like, I have not done any more summons apart from powerful opponent stuff more recently, which are different types of tickets. I've been saving up my nature stones and my peace chaos and normal tickets to see what these banners are, because I don't need to continuously put them into this event, because I have up until the 23rd of May to decide if I want to, like, actually I'd like to get Avatar Kyoshi, actually I'd like to get more Rangi skill coins to go back here. So I can hold off on them until now. So especially like basically I assume the idea is, when we get to Tuesday, we will find out who's in this banner, which will tell us who's in this banner, and then basically we will know exactly where and when to spend our currencies within the game. Obviously, we know peace chaos for the end, so save up what you can there. I think these two characters are going to be pretty interesting, especially because I personally don't have any Peace or Chaos characters. I will be really, really going for this. So I think a lot of my stones and stuff like that will be saved for this. Based on what I've seen of Yoon, I like the way he works, but I'm not sure if he's super high priority for me. Same goes for Tagaka. Like, as much as I like Talaric Tug, I'm not sure the whole pirate playstyle, especially without Jang, is necessarily what I want to do. So I have a feeling that maybe this banner might be a miss for me. And so if that leaves kind of Heiran just on her own, unless she turns out to be incredible, I kind of have a feeling I'll end up being just very Peace Chaos focused, and then right towards the end of the banner use the normal tickets I have to try and get Avatar Kyoshi and upgrade Rangi a little bit more. At least that's my strategy kind of at this point. But there is the video. So what are your thoughts on everything I talked about today? A little bit of an update on what I suppose specifically happened afterwards with the leaked image yesterday. Azula comic has been delayed. We have an Avatar figure coming from First 4 Figures. Looks like this. The trial deck for Avatar Weiss Schwarz has been revealed. How excited are you for this? And then we once again build up to another summon banner, Kyoshi summon banner, this time because they specifically say timeline, coming to the game shortly. What are your thoughts on all this stuff? But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.